Hey, I'm Justin.
This is Chaz.
Join us as we look back together, but learn to stay present.
Come with us as we rise up with hope on the horizon.
This is the podcast of extraordinary millennial gentlemen.
Ready. Welcome, everybody. Today we are doing, is this our second book review? Second book review.
Good
It's
sir.
number 2. I was thinking 3 for some reason. I'm ahead of myself.
Number 2s. No.
So we are, we're talking about Dad is Fat, and we're talking about the book.
It's an autobiography. I could have written it, but Jim Gaffigan wrote it.
We both star as the second star in it. Yeah, Jim Gaffigan. So James, is it a James?
No, I'm joking.
I was like, really? I didn't know that. That was interesting. Tidbit there. Yeah, so Dad is Fat. This, for those dads out there who may have a dad bod, or whether that's, the fit dad bod or the Dad is Fat bod, whichever camp you're in or is somewhere in between. This book, I think, it's really just humorous. So overall,
light read,
very
everybody.
light. You can kind of throw it in wherever. You could take a year to read this. You could push pause and come back whenever. If you need like 5 minutes to give you a smile on your face before you walk in to work or come home, I think I felt it was kind of that kind of a feel of a book. What about you?
Well, can I mention this? So Chaz, I know you went through the audio version of this.
Yep.
I read the ebook version of this, and there was kind of a dust cover type of insert.
Oh, okay.
And it mentioned that this is a collection of essays. It's almost like collection of essays. Sounds like it's very literary. So maybe it's like a bunch of bits. Because obviously, if you're listening to this, you don't know who Jim Gaffigan is, that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think less of you, but he's a popular stand-up comedian, and I believe, I could be slaughtered over this in the comments, but I believe he is a blue comedian, which in the comedy industry means he is a fairly clean comedian. So the book is that, right?
Yeah. It's
fairly clean.
Yep. Agree.
Squeaky.
Yep.
But it's kind of segmented, right? It's a collection of observations.
It's like these topics. So like the structure in the audiobook too, it like calls out these titles, and I don't think I picked up on that, but now that you say that, it makes a whole lot more sense listening to him read the audiobook, because it'll just give off the title and then give his thoughts about it, and then another title and give his thoughts on that kind of thing, the one-liners and whatnot. So so let me ask this question. What was maybe some of those titles, not specifically, or genres of sections in the book that kind of, got a really good laugh out of, or was like, that's so true for me and my life, or, some connection like that? What were those points?
I really found, I don't know why, because let me start over. Let me answer your question.
Sure.
My mind is racing. The parts of the book that really made me LOL out loud.
Yeah.
Probably the first 5-6 chapters, talking about not being a parent, and then talking about newborns, talking about pregnancy, marriage, relationships.
Yep.
The pregnancy pieces, like, everybody, disclaimer, you must read the book. I am quoting the book. Pregnant women are lazy, right? Those sections just are very funny to me.
Yeah.
And to my wife as well, who was kind of like, here, look at this. She's like, oh, that's pretty funny. Some of those one-liners, like you mentioned.
Right.
Again, this is a comedian's take on life. And I didn't find as much like gutting humor.
Yeah.
But gut busting, butt busting.
Yeah.
No, gut busting.
Gut busting, yes.
Lolling, LOL.
Yes.
That's going to be in the dictionary probably next year. Lolling.
Yeah.
I didn't find too much of it in kind of the last half. It was a lot about New York. It was a lot about kind of life, and I was a little bit disconnected from it.
Sure.
To be honest.
Yeah.
All right. So same question to you. Were there things that jumped out that were just hilarious and some that weren't?
Yeah. So me, different. I think a bit different consuming it through the audiobook. Like I like, I've seen some of his stuff, replayed. I've never been live. So to hear his voice, his cadence and everything like that, I think he can maybe deliver it in such a way. But he also, even though I say that, his tone and everything is he's kind of just blah. Like, you have to pick up on his jokes. He kind of just,
he's not an actor.
Yep.
He's a comedian. So his delivery is kind of, I'm imagining it's probably pretty consistent and therefore a little bit lulling maybe.
Yeah.
Not so lolling, not LOLing,
lulling,
but lull, an actual word, LULL, a real word.
Yeah, one that's in the dictionary. So for me, that I like that point of it. I did connect way more with the beginning because just things toward the end, I kind of faded. Although I've been to New York, I've seen some of those things. I have had, he goes off a bit about like apartment life, right, in big cities, and we have done that, but I've not done that with kids, nor do I have as many kids as he has, or been in that situation, so I think it relates a bit more to maybe those big families, those types of things. But I did think it was hilarious how his wife, I mean, she's got she kind of co-wrote this. I think he kind of says that
makes sense.
A bit.
Yeah.
And edits. I think she was the editor. So all these kind of poking fun jokes, like that's what they are. They're not like
harmless, but
very harmless, very funny.
Quite funny.
Yeah. So here's one I want to throw out here real quick, though. It kind of goes along with those. He's like,
I hope it's lolling and not lolling.
Maybe we'll see. There's a handful of these out here. So, raising kids may be a thankless job with ridiculous hours, but at least it pays, or at least the pay sucks. So, stuff like that. You're just like, oh yes, totally get the. And so this part also stood out to me. So they chose to do like the at-home births.
Yes, I was just going to mention that. That was a funny section as well.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily by choice. He's going out. He's like, it just kind of happened, and then she kind of wanted that from then on. But when he was told to, here's some garbage bags, go cover up some things in the living room.
You're going to have a home birth.
Get some towels. You're going to have a home birth.
Prep the area.
So
that's right.
I just remember he's like covering the TV and everything, and she's like, what do you think's going to happen? Like. And as a new dad, you're just like, I have no.
I don't know.
Like but you don't know until you go through that. So
that was funny to me. Both our observations, it's funny to me that our acknowledgement of the funniest parts. We're saying this. I'm going through the same thing in my head about what I enjoyed the most, or portions of the book that I enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
And yet for you and I, those are like the most distant times for us as far as fatherhood.
It's been
first time fatherhood.
Yeah.
The pregnancy, the time of the birth.
That's true.
I mean, that's been years ago for both of us.
I wonder if
which
that's
is
just
funny.
The impression that going through that for the first time and probably subsequent,
relatability of that.
I've only been through it once, right? You've been through it multiple times,
right? And
it just the relatability, that impressionistic, like that changes. I mean, that's when you, I think, as a father, I would say that's when I became a father, right? When the first baby's born, right? Before that, you're a husband, and I mean, not trying to split hairs or anything, but I felt a change, like the different responsibilities, all that kind of stuff. And so I like how he can make light of that, because man, those times are not always very light and fluffy in your life. They're very the opposite. Yes, very much so.
That's a great point. The contrast of that time of unknown, he just hits really well.
Mhm.
There's a good universality there, and the just the circumstances of a home birth,
Mhm.
multiple kids,
Yep.
being a dad for the first time. I think there's a lot of universality in what he portrayed there.
Mhm.
Okay, I think you have another one teed up, or you're thinking of another
Yeah.
quote you want to throw
Yeah.
out
Let me
there.
just throw a few of these. I'm just switching back and forth here. So not all these are super funny, but I don't know what's more exhausting about parenting: the getting up early or the acting like you know what you're doing. Right. That
That's true.
both of those
Oh,
stuff like
so
that. It
true.
just I have one.
And
I have one here about the
really quick though, for
pregnancy
everybody
section.
out there, what
Yeah.
Chaz just said, it's harder to actually try and convey that you know what you're doing. We're not talking about like in a public setting.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like with this child or children
Yep.
who are challenging you, stretching you, disobeying you. I know what I'm doing. Listen to me. It's
Well,
exhausting.
and
We're not
I don't.
talking about up on a stage in front of the public.
Right. Well, and I don't know about you, but thinking back, like I always thought my parents knew everything. Like
Mm.
they knew
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Like you could
Yes.
totally go to them right when you're in that stage of development, and you know, like so I can think back to that. And so you kind of feel that as becoming a dad. You're like you kind of feel
Yeah.
that as they look to you, and you're like, yeah, I feel like I kind of have to. I think our
Mm.
generation's opened up a bit more to say, look, I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't know everything. You may not
Yep.
believe that, but I'm going to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, and we'll work
Mm-hmm.
through that. I think is much more open than it used. Maybe the previous generations felt like they had to make so
Take it
because
until you make it.
yep, because he is that
Yeah.
he's pre-millennial, right? He's
Mm-hmm.
that generation. So I think there I did kind of feel a little disconnect from that, but it's still really relatable. And it made me think, to his credit, at the later chapters in the book,
Mm-hmm.
even though I didn't relate as much, I would still be smiling
Yeah.
quite often.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Not gut
Yeah.
busting, but you're like, it's up, it's light, it's fluffy. Like you kind of chuckle, you get a smile on your face, and I think that's fun.
I think this is what happened for me in this book. I think that on the onset and through, I would say, the middle of the book,
Yeah.
there is what makes really, really good humor funny, which is truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good comedy to me takes something that's absurd, but identify truthfulness of it, and
Yep.
therefore enforces the absurdity of it. And he does that in a great way. And if you guys out there have not seen any of heard of any of his bits, I would recommend the audiobook as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to the ebook or the paperback or the print copy.
Yep.
Only because you need some of that to kind of his pause and prose, how he says things.
Mm-hmm.
The first half of the book for me was just truth, man, just hitting
Mm-hmm.
what you think of dad, what you consider dad, what you think as a, soon to be father and then new father. And then it became maybe for me a little bit more narrow,
Mm-hmm.
and the truthfulness had been there. So I kind of feel like in the book, if you're in a major city center, specifically the New York City area,
Yep.
that I don't think that universality and connection is going to drop at all. But for me, in the latter half of the book, I know, yeah, okay, I guess that's how it is. Sure. Not that I was disbelieving,
Right.
but it was just kind of more for me, which was less universal. Was it light? Yep, it was still light. Still some smiling,
Mm-hmm.
but less lolling.
Yeah.
Lol.
Well,
That was my take.
sweet. I'm gonna we're just gonna let things breathe here for a minute, as they say.
Yes.
Take a small break, and we'll be right
Mm.
back. It's classic. All right, so for those who don't know who that was, the Zach Brown Band, whatever it
Zach
is,
Brown.
good stuff.
Oh,
So
gotta be careful. There's gonna be people out there having babies because of that break.
having babies
They're
right
gonna
now.
be a new wave of others because of that break. Good sir.
So I'm going to call timeout here and shift gears into the Mentor Minute real quick. And that song was kind of selected to hopefully transition a bit into this. I think he, in the book, still referring back to Jim, he, even though, again, like I mentioned, he's kind of poking fun at all these scenarios with his wife, but she sounds like a saint. And you totally know from the way he's writing, even though he's joking, that he adores her and will do anything for not only her, but the kids as well, right? As long as he can put on pants and get out the door, like, and get to the park, he'll be okay.
Literally put on pants. Read the book. You'll know what we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. So I think the Mentor Minute here is as fathers and stuff, it's, I want to say it's okay to kind of express those things. And notice, and it seems like he's built this relationship with this partnership in more ways than just the family unit with his wife, and his kids, right? It's his whole life, and he just incorporates it all. And so I think, I don't know if there's like there's not this big thing out there that I'm trying to address here, but just to say, we may get tied up in our, family responsibilities, our work responsibilities, trying to, make the buck, right? Trying to be the good dad and this and that. And, just take time to appreciate and express that to not only your spouse, your wife, your kids as well. I think that can be done way more.
Yeah.
I think we maybe hold that in more, like let more of that appreciation out.
Yeah, man. No, that's a great point. Now, if I can mention a couple things that made me think of, I can't remember exactly the saying, but I've heard this said about gratitude, kind of a similar thing or mantra, where it's like gratitude expressed is really not gratitude at all, right? So appreciation for the moment, living in the moment, presence. But I think you're saying beyond that, for important relationships that you have within your family, within your team, express that, right? Because people need that. And as a leader, as a father, as a husband or a spouse, you need that to be expressed and not just felt and internalized. And if I can make a comment about the previous generation, or maybe multiple, maybe not Gen Xers, maybe baby boomers, who for the most part raised those of us listening to this podcast, I would say, that was it, wasn't it? I mean, it was like, were they feeling appreciation? Were they feeling gratitude, love, joy? Absolutely. But were they raised by a generation where it was like stoic silence? Kind of like, maybe not a great example, but kind of like the Clint Eastwood cowboy. You just kind of, just got to hang on to it and just put out the vibe. But it's not enough. It's not enough in human relationships. It's not enough for the person, for you as a parent, as a leader, as a father, as a spouse. But it's definitely not for the people who you're trying to guide, love, uplift. So that's a great point, man. Very good point. And you're right. Jim Gaffigan he does it subtly. He does it with humor, and it's well done.
Yeah, and I think we have that role as fathers, and not trying to get into the whole, there's no sexist part of this. There's no, we have different roles, We're both,
Yeah.
there's a reason males are males and females are females. They're different. And the children and the spouse, like, they need that as part of development. They need to know they have that father figure out there that loves them and isn't just, going to work, coming home and flipping on the TV, kicking his foot up and doesn't anything.
Yeah.
And Jim talks about a couple of those scenarios as well.
He
right?
does. Yep.
So anyway, just keep that in mind. Try to lead the family in love and appreciation there. And I think you'll be surprised at the outcome. So the other thing, shifting gears a bit, if you've read this book and there were sections you connected with or about what we just talked about, if you've got examples of, reaching out appreciation to your family, things like that, and how that's helped you, leave them in the comments below. We'll take a peek and reply back. So.
Absolutely. Well, as we kind of summarize this book, I'm really wondering, 1 to 10, 1 being a score of this is offensive, 10 being shout it from the rooftops. You're ready to, drink the Kool-Aid on this one. But no, really, it's like it's a must, right? It's a must listen, must read for our viewers, for our followers. Where do you think this one falls for you? 1 out of 10, and I'll weigh in after.
Yeah. So I think for maybe 1% of you, you're gonna have the moment where you were like, I'm a little offended about that. But that very small percent. I'm gonna say I'm like at an 8 on this one.
Wow. Okay.
I'm an 8, just because I think there can be more humor and more. I like the humor twist on the dad scenario and the father than what maybe mainstream media portrays. I like his jokes about dad versus the dumb dad stuff. So that's why I think it's up there for me, just because of where it hits.
Nice, man. No, so Chaz is an 8. I'm gonna say I'm a 7. I think it would have come in higher for me if the latter. I want to say half. Yeah, if it carried through a little bit more. But that is nothing against Jim Gaffigan and his experience and the humor. The humor is there. I just didn't have as much relatability. I don't think it's maybe as universal. That would get me closer to kind of that 8 to 9, range. But 7, for me, I agree with you, man. It's really important to get some lightheartedness about a very serious topic for a change. Is it a very serious topic? It absolutely is. It's an enormous weight and responsibility. Parenting is, period. But I think it's a great one. Like I said, in the portion that I did read with my spouse, there were some chuckles, there was some laughter. I would say, even if you are single in your marriage prospects, or that's not the phase of your of life that you're in, he's a great comedian. It's a great read. It's a simple read, and I think it's worth your time for sure. Yeah,
definitely go check it out. Let us know if you like this episode about this book review. We're going to keep doing some book reviews. Again, if you have experience or comments, please share them below.
Everybody, thank you for spending the time with us today. We hope you like today's podcast. Make sure you like and you hit subscribe as well. Share it with your friends. Share the hope. Rise up with us. We'll see you soon. I ate my grandma.